Welcome to Tell Me More, the Allsteel podcast where design meets innovation and we explore the limitless potential of workspaces. In this exclusive series, we're peeling back the layers of workplace design. From the psychology of colors to the future of hybrid work, join us as we open doors to conversations with industry leaders, architects, and designers who redefine the modern workplace. This is Tell Me More, brought to you by Allsteel, because when it comes to designing the future, there's always more to discover.
Hello, welcome to the Tell Me More podcast. In this mini-series, we are discussing ergonomics. My name is Lauren Gant, and I am a Senior Workplace Advisory Manager with Allsteel. And today I'd love to dive into the topic of ergonomics through the lens of product development. So I've asked my colleague, Tony Ash, to join us today. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Lauren.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So hi, everybody. My name's Tony Ash. I'm really excited to be on today's podcast. This September actually marks a big milestone for me. I've been with Allsteel and H&I for 10 years now. I've really spent the most part of my last decade just dedicated to the performance seating category, which includes designing, developing, and really kind of championing the importance of ergonomics in every of the products that we work through. So my role within Allsteel is a product manager. I have the privilege of representing customers' voice throughout the development process, and I work with a fantastic cross-functional team like Lauren to really ensure that comfort and ergonomics are at the forefront of every one of our decisions that we make along the product development journey. So again, I'm thrilled to be here today and to share my passion for seating and to delve a bit deeper into the world of ergonomics and design.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is great. You know, we know, Tony, we talk about this a lot, but ergonomics is not a protected word. There's no board or advisory that approves whether any product can be called ergonomic. And we have seen lots of examples where the word ergonomics is really used more as a marketing ploy than a true design initiative. So, you know, you and I explore this topic a lot, but I'd love to talk about how we maintain human-centric considerations as this core design criteria so that when we are creating product, it is inherently ergonomic and it's not just a marketing word we use. So again, you and I talk about this a lot, but I'd love to sort of give everybody a peek behind the curtain about some of the things that we talk about.
Yeah.
You know, and I think when we think about what does it mean for a product to really be inherently ergonomic, we often focus on sort of 4 different areas of focus. We focus on fit, movement, comfort, and lastly, intuitiveness. So I'd love to walk through those a little bit with you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'd love to start with fit. So when I say that word fit, what are some of the things that are on your mind as we think about product development and fit?
Yep. So fit, kind of as an element that we consider throughout product development and our development process, is really fundamental when we're creating new solutions. And it's more really than just accommodating different body sizes. And by that, I mean, we want all people to feel comfortable and well supported, whether they're petite and small. And to achieve this, there's kind of 3 things that maybe we can work through to unpack. The first is anthropometric data, which you help greatly with in providing and helping us understand as a team. The second is adjustability and just making sure we have the right functional adjustments for users based on the product solution itself. And then the last thing I think is also important, and that's just context, like considering the context of the product solution within its environment. So maybe if I may, Lauren, I'll go through each one of these and kind of give a little bit more detail. So anthropometric data, maybe you can provide a clearer definition, but the way I see it is it's kind of a fancy word for just referring to, you know, the aggregated measurements of the human body. So things like height and weight and leg length and torso dimensions, stuff like that. All of the sorts of points that tell us how people vary in different sizes and shapes.
Absolutely.
So we use this information to help, make our products accommodate a wide range of users. We often say 5th to 95th percentile, and that's the goal that we always strive to design our products to. So again, everybody can feel comfortable and well supported in the product. So, beyond that, the other thing I wanted to talk about, kind of as part of a quantitative measure or guide that we use, is information from BIFMA. So BIFMA does provide some guidelines and requirements and standards that, to a level, guarantee a certain level of user compatibility and safety. And then to kind of go into that second thing, so I talked about adjustability. So we seek to build that into our products whenever possible. So again, if it's appropriate based on the product's intended application. So on this, you could think about chair heights or armrest adjustments, lumbar supports, all of the stuff that a user would physically engage with to make it comfortable to their personal preferences. So this is more of an aspect of giving users control over their experience to ensure a personalized fit for them to adjust these elements of the product in a way that's most conducive to the postures they want to maintain or the individual preferences that they have for what they deem to be ergonomic and comfortable. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was just, I talked about setting an application context. Yeah. So we're always thinking about how our products interact with the broader environment. So we consider things like table heights, clearances around desks, and even potential pinch points that we want to make sure we design to accommodate a safe and seamless user experience. So ultimately, I guess what I'll kind of put a pin in this is just our goal is to create products that fit a vast majority of our users. Again, ideally from the 5th to the 95th in terms of fit. It is a complex puzzle at times, but prioritizing fit helps to ensure that our products truly support people in their work and daily lives.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you emphasize that, this is really data driven, and we are using the latest and greatest of population data to say these are the dimensions that we believe are most conducive to the population in the working environment today. These, our adjustments are not arbitrary in, where they start and where they stop, but they're really based on real human data. Mm-hmm. So that's great. So we make sure that we're fitting the population that we're seeing in the environment today. And then we need to also be thinking about this idea of movement. And we know that introducing movement can foster health for all occupants. Static postures not only, become uncomfortable over time, but, these prolonged sedentary behaviors can really have health implications over a long period of time. Yep. So when we think about movement as it relates to product development, what are some of the conversations that we have in that arena?
Yeah, for sure. And maybe I'll even give some examples on real products. So we are obviously big believers that incorporating movement into the workplace can significantly improve, people's well-being. It's all about really designing products that encourage posture shifts and like you said, help to combat against the negative effects that we see out of prolonged or stagnant sitting or product that doesn't promote kind of these micro movements that help increase blood circulation and comfort. So we do have a wide portfolio of product that's designed with this in mind. So just to highlight, like I said, I think we can prove it by just talking through some examples. So to give some explicit examples, we can kind of unpack Ply, Mimeo, and Evo. So Ply has kind of an interesting design within the seat that I wanted to talk about, Mimeo within its back, and Evo within its arm. So just to start with Ply, Ply is a more recent product that Allsteel had launched, and the chair Ply does trade off some traditional adjustments for a truly innovative 4-point seat suspension system. So it's effectively a lifted seat that does dynamically react to users' shifting postures and movements. It does provide a subtle bounce and encourages kind of those micro movements that keep the body engaged. So it's great to sit in, super comfortable. And designing Ply was a bit of a balancing act to kind of get the movement that we want out of it and to ensure that it felt both secure and responsive so that users, again, could move freely, but also balance that against potential unsafe or unstable kind of perceptions of movement.
Yeah, so, we did a lot of work to make sure people felt that movement without feeling like they were going to fall out of that movement.
And a lot of it's trial and error and iterative prototyping and making sure we kind of just collect that feedback and kind of optimize the design throughout the process. But yeah, Mimi was another example on the back. It does have a unique design and you could say technology we call IntelliForm within the back. It was really designed purely with comfort and movement in mind. It is a very high kind of design element of the chair as well. The technology effectively senses a user's body and kind of adjusts to provide personalized support. So again, if you're familiar with Mimeo, this is that web-like structure in the back. And it's particularly great for side sitting. That's something that we demonstrate in a lot of our materials about how it can kind of serve as a quasi armrest, as you could side sit and kind of put your arm over the back. And then Evo is the last one. We can kind of look at its arm design as far as concrete steps that we take within product development to promote movement. So Evo has an open arm structure. So you could say this provides unrestricted movement in the sense that users can side sit and they don't have their thighs directly interfere or bump up into the arm uprights. So we're not necessarily prescribing the specific direction that user should sit. So there's more examples than just these three, but the point, I guess, is that we absolutely consider this notion of movement throughout our product development process. And it's all about empowering people to find comfortable and healthy ways to work, whether they're sitting, perching, or leaning.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are three great examples of seating product. And we also do this when we're thinking about tables and height adjustability and even moving throughout the floor plan. Do you have spaces to sit in different postures throughout the day? Do you have areas to walk and move throughout the space? So really incorporating all of those product categories as well. Yeah, and really speaking about comfort, that's a big word in our world of seating and product development. But what about comfort? What do we think about when we think about comfort in product development? And what does that look like through the design process?
Yeah, comfort's another big word like ergonomics, where there's a lot to go through, but it is absolutely key, especially in seating, since it's such a personal product to the individual, and it's something we take seriously throughout the design process. I'd say it's kind of a delicate balance between geometry and materials, and ultimately that all-important subjective feeling of just right. Mm-hmm. So we really, I'd say, start by setting clear comfort goals up front with the team. These are more or less internal targets that help to guide, kind of as North Stars, our decisions that we make along the process. But we do, like I mentioned earlier, rely heavily on testing and feedback. So we'll conduct subjective user trials where people actually sit in early prototypes and they tell us what they think. And then with your help, you've been a fundamental part of this journey, Lauren. We use objective measures like pressure mapping to kind of see how the body interacts with the product, and the data helps us kind of identify hot spots where we may need to make subtle adjustments. Another kind of good example to talk through, specific to pressure mapping and seat comfort, to achieve that kind of right level of comfort, we can look at foam densities and foam thicknesses and even the composition of the foam itself. So an example, again, all in relation to the seat, but we might trial multiple options of different densities. We'll tweak the shape and the contour of the cushion, add a waterfall in the front. We'll continue to iterate and prototype and get feedback and testing until we find that sweet spot. So again, it's a lot of trial and error, but it is very important for us to get it right. And then maybe the last thing I'd touch on in relation to comfort and product development I mentioned earlier is materiality. So that's something that I don't think we often think about, but it does play a huge role in terms of kind of initial perceived comfort. So some materials, for instance, as they're covered over the seat, may stretch more, which would allow a user to sink in and really experience the support of the foam. And others might, be more breathable, that help regulate temperature and kind of prevent that sticky feeling. But then there's trade-offs to consider as well, because you can consider, a woven fabric that's more breathable, stretching better than a coated polyurethane or a vinyl, which would give more durability and cleanability, but may not stretch as much. So all of these choices influence comfort. And in the end, it's just creating that holistic experience that feels good, supports the users, and helps individuals stay comfortable throughout their day.
Yeah, that's so great. I love how you say it is, we have clear goals up front, and we're constantly checking in on those targets throughout the process. And that's really using, that's allowing us to have some decision points that we can create these ideas of what do we want to, what is the goal, and are we meeting that currently with the materiality that we're selecting, with the design we're selecting. And it's been great to integrate pressure mapping into this story. Subjective testing is super important. We need to know what people's responses are, and people are fickle, and if this is an iterative process, it's great to have that repeatable objective metric that isn't biased on, black is not my favorite color, so I'm going to, rate this product more harshly. Or yep. I just had a tough conversation with my boss, and now you're asking me to tell you how I feel. It might be impacted by that. So this yep. idea that we're marrying subjective and objective measurements to really hit our targets throughout this design process is really interesting. Mm-hmm. So, and lastly, we talked about fit, movement, comfort. Lastly, I want to talk about this idea of intuitiveness. Intuitiveness is really important because we really want people to understand automatically how to use a product. Mm-hmm. The classic example of this idea gone wrong is when you approach a door handle and you try to open that door by pulling the handle, but in actuality, it's a push door. And so, we've probably all done this, right? And it can be embarrassing and it can be frustrating, but we know that, but this is not a human this is not your fault. This is a design error. And so when the product design does not allow or align with our expectations, that user experience is certainly diminished. Mm-hmm. So when we think about intuitiveness in product development, what are we thinking about, Tony?
Yeah, the door's a great example, and the doors just open and close. When we think of chairs, there's seat height and depth and tilt lock.
Yeah.
And there's so many bells and whistles. So intuitiveness is obviously critical because we don't want people to need a manual or a training session just to figure out how to use the chair that they're going to be sitting in. We want the experience, again, to be human-centric, seamless, natural. So we put a lot of thought into the design of our adjustments. So this includes the buttons, the levers, the paddles, the sliders, anything that a user would directly engage with themselves to drive a function of the chair. So we consider the size and the shape and the location of the adjustments and how they feel tactically to the touch. And ideally, everything should be easy to see and reach and operate while a user's in a seated position within the chair. So we try to kind of take it one click deeper. We'll try to design adjustments that physically communicate their function. So a lever that adjusts the seat height, for instance, might be shaped parallel to the floor and move up and down because the seat, that adjustment drives the up and down function of the seat. Or a backrest lock, we might position that to where pushing it forward, for instance, if a slider locks the back upright in a forward position, or you can slide it all the way back and that unlocks it and kind of allows it to fully recline. So those are just two examples, but it's all about creating a clear connection between the control and the effect that it has when a user kind of moves that. So iconography is another big one. So what I kind of talked through was the physical sensation of adjusting and kind of the styling and design we put into the control itself. But if we label or visually identify the adjustment with an icon, that's a way that we can communicate the function itself. So we want our users, again, to ideally know what they're adjusting before they adjust it. And I think our Acuity chair is a great example of this, where we have intuitive icons that really guide the users through all of the adjustments, and they're all located within sightline, again, while seated. Right. And then maybe the last thing I'll touch on, this is more specific to weight-activated control mechanisms, but I think it's important to mention. So a chair that has a weight-activated mechanism, for instance, which a lot of our product do, effectively that just means the chair automatically adjusts its recline resistance to the user's weight. So a petite person or a large person would effectively, again, feel the same experience or the same level of recline tension. And that also helps aid to making the experience a little bit more effortless and intuitive for everybody. It's just one less control for them to have to adjust or learn.
Right, that's great. So making it predictable, making it match the function, iconography, expected locations, and when possible, making that just an automatic adjustment are all great initiatives to make sure that our product actually feels usable. Okay, so we went through these 4 criteria to make sure that, that we're thinking about broadly as we're thinking about product development. Now, this is the question I get a lot as an ergonomist. What is your most ergonomic chair? My classic answer is always, it depends, which is not super satisfying all the time. But now I'm going to turn this over to you, Tony. If we are incorporating ergonomics into our seating and we're doing it in this way where we're thinking about these 4 different criteria, why do we have so many different task chairs?
Yeah, it depends. It is a tricky question to answer for sure. And in truth, there's not really a one-size-fits-all most ergonomic chair that we can just give a single answer on. It really depends on the way I see it, the task, the setting, and ultimately that subjective feeling of what's right for the individual. So we all have our own personal preferences. So if we think about it, there's dedicated workstations, we have conference rooms, we have benching and spacious for hoteling and training, like the list goes on and on. And each of these settings all have different needs with different activities happening within each. And you might want a more supportive, task-intensive chair for your individual desk, but a lighter, more flexible option for shared seating or collaborative areas. So just to go back to another example, like Ply and Evo, both are designed with ergonomics in mind. Both are ergonomically sound. Ply with its dynamic suspension is great for light tasks and shared settings. It encourages movement and flexibility. But Evo, on the other hand, offers your more traditional sense of bells and whistles and kind of more dedicated support and adjustability for the individual workstation. So the most ergonomic chair really comes down to finding the right fit for the specific application and the user's needs. And it's about offering a range of options that prioritize comfort, support, and movement, and some of the other things we talked about earlier. So that's why we have such a broad portfolio, is because that kind of depends.
Yeah, one size doesn't always fit all, right?
Yep.
Yes. So at the top of this podcast, I said that human-centric considerations are a core design criteria for us in product development, but they're not the only design criteria that we have. We are often balancing this idea of an aesthetic target as well as a comfort target or an ergonomic target. So how do you balance these ideas of aesthetics versus ergonomics?
Yep. So yeah, human-centric design is at our core, and it's not the only factor we consider. Aesthetics obviously play a huge role. We want our product to look great, and the trick is really to find that sweet spot between ergonomics and design. Sometimes it is a balancing act. Sometimes there are tensions that conflict with each other, but there are times too where the two goals can complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I keep giving examples just to kind of play this out and demonstrate the reality, but you can think of O6. So O6, there's a lumbar adjustment that is quite a prevalent, design feature that we certainly celebrate, and we offer that level of comfort and adjustment and support. And then we have other product like Relate, where it's more seamlessly integrated into the back. It's not to say one is done better than the other, but both have their own style of execution, and both approaches provide excellent ergonomic support without compromising the overall aesthetic. We can even go back to the earlier conversation we had on, weight-activated controls. They offer more intuitive and personalized experience for the user, but they also allow us to simplify the design by eliminating the need for a manual tension adjustment. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win for both ergonomics and for aesthetics.
I love that.
And ultimately striking the right balance does involve a collaborative approach. So we're not making these decisions in isolation, just within our four walls, but we work closely with our design partners, of course, our engineering teams and our sales teams to get feedback. And we get valuable input from architects, designers, dealers, end users. And this approach really collectively allows us to understand what the market needs and what the market wants, and how we can create products that are both beautiful and functional.
Yeah, that's well said. Perfect. Yeah. So we know, Tony, that you are always working on new and innovative product. What do you see coming down the pipeline? Do you see any new trends in product development as it relates to ergonomics?
So maybe before I start, it's important to distinguish between like these fleeting trends that we see come and go, and kind of genuine shifts in how we approach product development. So at Allsteel, we do prioritize authenticity, and we focus on the long-term value over the short-lived, fads that we could see kind of live and die quickly with trends. So one trend that I would say is here to stay, and I'll try to thread this back to ergonomics, is sustainability. So it's obviously not just a buzzword. It's a core principle that guides our design and decision-making process throughout product development. We're constantly exploring new ways to reduce our environmental impact, both during production and at the end of the product's life. We're also looking at different materials that we can use. So I mentioned that earlier, as far as how materials can influence comfort, increasing the recycled content where possible that goes into making the product, and then also designing for easier, disassembly and recycling at the end of its useful life. So as we embrace sustainability, we can't, like I said, lose sight of ergonomics, and in some instances they go hand in hand. So truly sustainable product is one that's built to last, and that means it needs to be comfortable, it needs to be supportive and adapt to users' needs, so stand the test of time from a comfort perspective. And even I'd say one exciting development that may be lesser known on some of our lines, but you could call it this notion of right to repair. So we're designing some products like Acuity and Evo, for instance, that are easier to maintain and repair, which do extend their lifespan and reduce waste, and does hit on sustainability. But for Acuity and Evo, they have a seat that can be replaced in the field by hand without any tools, and you could say it's a simple and ergonomic process that empowers users to keep their chairs in top condition for years to come. So the approach not only benefits the environment, but it enhances the user experience, which I think is that dotted line connection back to ergonomics. So it's about creating products that are, again, sustainable and supportive, and ensure that they remain valuable and relevant over the long haul.
That's wonderful. And I just appreciate working with you so much. I love this philosophy that we're prioritizing authenticity over short-lived fads. I just value you so much, Tony. Thank you. It's always a pleasure working with you and your team to create these, inherently ergonomic product. So today we talked about, by incorporating these ideas of fit, movement, comfort, and intuitiveness, we can create product that is meaningful, that is comfortable, and that does stand the test of time. So it's been fun to share this conversation with you and with our audience.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that brings us to the end of another fascinating episode of Tell Me More. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of design and innovation. If you're hungry for more insights and stories, make sure to subscribe to Tell Me More on your preferred podcast platform. As we sign off, remember that the conversation doesn't end here. Connect with us on social media at Allsteel and share your thoughts, questions, or even your favorite moments from the podcast. We love hearing from our engaged and curious audience. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue exploring the Design to Do More philosophy. Until then, thanks for listening.